You could.
Thank you, Thompson.
As I'm taking a look at number 7, let's look at number 7. Number 7 says Suzanne's going to rent a car if she's going to go out of town, one company. So we're going to look at company 1, and then we are going to look at the second company. And the question is, when would they have, when would one be a better deal? And what we're actually looking at is when, and how many miles would you drive that the first company is a better deal. We're actually looking that it would be cheaper. But I am okay that at this point we say equal. But what we're really looking at is when company 1 is going to be cheaper than company 2. Okay? So if I'm looking at company 1, we are renting it for how many days? Will we read the question? 5 days. And each day we have to pay how much at company 1? Flat rate of 35. So we know we have to take 5 times $35, right? The other thing that they're charging us for is for each mile that we drive. So we're going to think of that as our rate of change. So this is going to be the plus 10 cents a mile. Could you have just 0.1 M instead of 0.10? Yes. We now want to look at company 2. Company 2 is going to charge us $25 per day. So we rented it again for 5 days times 25. And this company is charging us 25 cents a mile. So 0.25. And you should be able to solve this. I had some people thinking that this 35 times 0.1, that should all be in a parenthesis times 5. This is the only thing you're paying $5 is each day. You might not drive it at all on a day, and then there might be one day that you drive it a ton, right? So when you're looking at that, that should be the equation. Questions on that? You need to finish it. I'm not going to finish that one. Okay, so if you have that equation, to finish it. Number 11. So if we are taking a look at number 11, and we can look at 7 and 8 also. So let's look at those two. Number 8, as we look at that question. Number 8 said, we're looking at those two, at that situation about the greenscape and how we are going to do that. So if we read the question, one company is charging $100 plus $12 an hour for mulch. The other company, if we look at it, is just charging us a straight fee of $23 an hour for the job. So if I want to write my equation, and I'm looking at company 1, company 1, the first company, is $100, greenscape, landscape, plus $12 for labor, $12 an hour. I might use H because I'm talking about how many hours. And I want to find out when it's a better deal. And again, if I'm trying to find out when DJ's is a better deal, DJ's is the one that was charging us the $23. So we're really looking at when this is less, right, instead of being equal. But as we're solving these, we really haven't done the inequalities, so we are going to put 23H. That should be your equation. And when you get H equals, the key thing is if you're looking at it, you get a decimal, but it doesn't make sense to have that decimal answer. So you want to round it to how many hours would it be a better deal. The other question that I have seen just a ton of mistakes on was number 10. I had a lot of people asking on this one. First step, what does the negative do out in front of the parenthesis if I'm looking at it, Braden? Changes everything to the what? That negative out in front.
Will we do plus?
So if I have a negative in front, that's really like a -1 that I'm taking times 3b minus 15. And if I take -1 times everything, what does it do to everything inside the parenthesis?
Makes it negative.
Makes it not necessarily negative, Chloe, but the TJ, the
What?
What does the negative do? Out in front, -1 does not change everything to the negative. Changes it how? Grace.
To the opposite?
To the opposite. So This negative is going to make everything the opposite when I look at everything inside, okay? So that negative out in front is going to make it 3b, becomes a negative because it was positive, and then plus 15. This is where most people have had this as a negative when they tried to solve and they got -3 for an answer for this problem instead of -1. And then you would have had over here, using your distributive property, 12b plus 30, okay? But this, generally, when I was looking at people's problems this morning, I had a few people in, they're like, how come I keep getting this wrong? They had this as a -15. Some of you made that same mistake yesterday when we took that homework quiz. You did not distribute or multiply those when you were multiplying out. As I look at number 11, we should add our like terms on this side. 5x plus 3x. If I'm adding those together, Sage is going to give me how many x's?
8x.
Okay, so if I'm looking, I'm going to have 8x plus 7 is equal to -8 plus 3x. I now want to remove the smaller x from both sides. Daniel, I'll do what?
Subtract 3x.
Subtract 3x both sides. Thane, once I've done that, what's my next step?
Your next step would be
I'm going to put
dividing
5x.
dividing
Careful,
5
what? Tell me what to write down first before this step.
Oh.
5x,
plus 7 equals -8.
okay?
Then you minus 7.
I'm going to subtract 7 on both sides. When I do that, I am left with 5x is equal to a -15, and I'm dividing both sides by 5, and x should equal -3. So again, I'm not sure where the mistake happened for you as you were looking at that. Just be careful as you are looking at that. You are adding like terms first. You do not want to start with subtracting 3x and subtracting 3x, and then you want to add your like terms first, okay? So, if you have other questions today in class, you want to look at this worksheet, getting that done first. And then, and especially those story problems, if you didn't solve them, you want to do those. So, as we look at today's notes, where would it happen to be? So if I am looking at your notes, I know it seems a weird thing that you come prepared for class, but yes, I do need you prepared. So we'll grab it, please, quickly. So as we are looking at lesson D7, we are really looking at doing a little more of the same type of questions. So what I would like you to do is, as you look at question 1 and 2 here, as we are solving those, first step, Ava, if I take a look at this first question.
Switch the minus to
I like that. Change that to plus a negative. We can always do that for one of our options, and we could actually do that in both questions to probably help us out. And then what would you do next to get all of your variables on one side? Subtract a 1x, right? So please finish solving this one. And then in the second question, we want to add our smaller variable. And I just want to show you a mistake that people are often making. Connor, what'd you do next after 4x equals 48? What's our next step?
Divide 4.
Divide 4. Don't start on that next one just yet. I want to show you something where people are often making mistakes. So we got x equals, did I do this right, Connor? Did I put 4x equal 48? Is that right? Yeah? Okay. X is equal to? And again, as you walk in the door, that'd be really good if you grab a calculator. So as soon as you're done here, go grab one, okay? What did we get? 12. Anyone have anything different than 12? Negative 12. Why negative 12? Where did I... So, oh, yeah, if we look at this, right, this negative 48, this was a negative 48, and we just put 48 here. But if you made that same mistake, because it's easy that some of you will leave that off, and you did the check for this, right? If I did the check with positive 12, and so some of you on your quiz yesterday did an awesome job showing me your check. If I was checking this one, and you put 5 times 12, and you said, that's 60. And the question is, does that equal, and we put in 12 plus negative 48. And right away you go, we're going to get negative 36. That doesn't work. So now you go back to the problem. You go, okay, where did I mess up? You don't erase everything, but you go, okay, if this was negative 60, would this work? And this is negative. Oh, that gives me negative 60. Oh, so I forgot this was negative, and that makes my answer negative. Okay? So doing that check, which is what I saw a couple of you do, you couldn't get your check to work on the quiz, and you kind of figured out maybe where your mistake was. And that is the key thing, is that you kind of figure it out before you just say, Mrs. Thompson, I don't get this, this doesn't work, I can't do this. Is to use that for your check method, okay? So if we look at this one, our smaller y value is negative 6y. I'm going to add that to both sides. So please do it in the same way. If you were writing down what we have left, Layla, what am I going to have on the left side?
45 minus 3y equals.
Oh wait, I just added 6y to negative 3y. So 45 plus, say it again,
3.
y equals,
Y? I don't know.
oh yeah, negative 6y plus 6y. Sophie, what do you think? Negative 6y plus 6y. You said just y. What do you think, Sophie? 0. 0y. Could we put 0 times y? We could. 0 times y, remember, is just 0. So when you added these two, you got 0, right? Next step, Zach, I need to get 3y by itself, and I want to keep it positive. How do I get rid of 45? Minus 45. And so I will have a lot of people at this point just divide by 3 and tell me the answer is 15. You cannot do that until this 45 is on the other side of the equal sign. You cannot divide by 3 till you have 3y totally by itself. So you need the coefficient and that variable, 3 times y equaling it. Because what a lot of students will do is at this point, they will tell me the answer is this. This is the mistake they will make. They will say, you know what, if I'm solving this, I will just take 45 plus 3y, and they'll ignore this. They'll just kind of drop this off, and they'll just go, oh, divide by 3, and they'll say 15, which it is not 15, it's negative 15. And if you do the check, that's where a lot of times the mistake happens. So just remember, you cannot solve for the variable till you have the variable equal. So this is a mistake that often gets made. People just drop things. I don't know, they get lazy, they get tired, they're like, oh, can't do this. Okay? Question, Brett? What'd you do?
So I added 3.
Could you have added 3y at the first step and got all the variables on this side having negative 3y? You could have done that. The reason I wanted to show this and have you wait to do this is that I will have a lot of people add negative 6y and 6y, and when they do that, they don't want to put 0. They want to put a y here. And it's a really common mistake. So I just wanted to make sure that you understood that when you add that, it is possible to have 0. Is it possible to have y equals 0 for an answer? Is that a possible answer to a question? If y equals the number 0, is that the same as if I have y equals negative 15? You can have this answer. And remember, when you do a problem, and if you take 15 and you divide it by 0, what is 15 divided by 0? No, not 15 divided by 0, but 0 divided by, in this case, 3. What is 15 divided by 3 gives us 5? But if I have 0 and I divide it by 3, isn't 0 divided by any number equal to 0? We talked about that at the beginning. So be really careful. I mean, you can solve a problem as you're looking at that and get 0 for an answer. I would like you, as you look at these next ones, we are not going to do all of these, but I want you to do number 5 here, and I would like you to do number 4 right now. I'm going to put the answers for the other 2. Do those. I'm going to have people come up and show us your work. Up here is that we want to multiply by 2 on both sides. that means you do not take 2 times 3m and minus 4. This does not become 3m minus 8 because these 2's cancel. And so what some of you did on the quiz yesterday is you multiplied this side by 2 and then you tried to use distributive property on this side and said, oh yeah, I gotta take the 2 times, no you don't, they cancel. So 3m plus negative 4, I like that, added 4 to both sides, divided by 3, got our solution. If you think of the check really quick, 3 times 6 gives us 18. 18 minus 4, if I'm taking 18 minus 4, that gives us 14. And 14 divided by 2 is 7. It checks. When I look at this question, please set that down, don't throw it. First thing, always get your move the smallest variable, or move your variables first, not the numbers. You're most likely going to make less mistakes, especially when we get into one like number 6, okay? So subtracting 2g on both sides, we get 3g minus 15. And you don't always have to change subtraction, and sometimes it's nice to leave it because then you can see you have to add 15. We get 9 divided by 3 is 3. If you plug in 3 here, right? 3 minus 3 is what? 0. This would be 5 times 0, and on this side you'd have 2 times 0. Isn't that the same thing? 0 equals 0 for the check? It works. If we're doing this one, let's add these together on this one. We're going to do this one kind of quick. We're going to have 5w plus 7 equals, how many w's on this side? 2. 2w minus 5. Again, we're going to subtract 2w. What I'm noticing on a lot of your papers is you don't like to put a w here. You like to just put minus 2. I will start marking that wrong, especially on a quiz if you're doing that. You have to keep the variable with it. So we have 3w plus 7 equals negative 5. We are subtracting 7. 3w is equal to negative 12. And if we look at our solution, they said we should have negative 4. Okay. Your homework today. I want you to notice that it says at the top for today's homework, there's a lot of questions. I want you to do the evens and 19 and 21. So, turn to D7, and you can see it is 2 pages long. You have the back of D6, and then it goes on to D7. So I would say that next week, you should be ready when you walk in, that if I ask for D6 or D7, then you would have those too. Are we probably handing in the second page of D7? No, because D8's on the back of it, right? So you should make sure. So what's nice about this is that you're doing the evens, so that if you need all this room to do your work, you can use all of this room to do your work and just kind of cross off number 5, right? So you have all this room. Same thing with number 6. You have all of this room to show your work if you need. Now, the problems that you most likely will need extra room for are questions 10 and 12. And first thing they ask you is to find the perimeter. So please, next to number 10 and number 12, put perimeter equal. How do you find perimeter of a triangle? Daniel?
You find the size and multiply by 3.
Okay, because they tell us in the triangle all 3 sides are the same, we're going to take 3 times the side. You have to find the side. This is your side, right? This is your other side. Once you find one of those lengths, I would use your notes, right? Yesterday's notes from D6 that we did. This was right in your notes. We did one just like this. Please take a look at number 12. Number 12, you have perimeter of a rectangle. So we can't just take it times 3. Connor, you awake? Okay, move your hand so your head stays up. So when we are looking at this one for perimeter, how do we find perimeter of a rectangle? What do we have to do different for a rectangle?
Times 4.
No chance. That would be a square. okay? We're gonna take 2 times the length, but if you didn't want to do 2 times the length, right, plus 2 times the width, couldn't you just add all 4 sides? That'd be the same thing, okay? Are opposite sides in a rectangle equal?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, when you go to solve this one, you have to do 2 problems. You have to solve for y, and you have to solve for x. What do we know about these 2 sides across from each other if I am looking at those? Sophie, what do you think? These 2 sides define y. How could I write that equation as I'm starting my homework? What do you know in a rectangle about opposite sides? They're the same or equal. So we could say 4y plus 3 equals, you have to get y equals here, okay? Ellie, what do I know about the sides equal, the longer sides across from each other? So tell me, how am I going to find x equals? So this would be my hint as you do 12. What's one of the sides you want to tell me first? 15x minus 7 has to be equal to? There you go. Whereas in this one, you only have one thing to solve, right? Here you have more. So there are some story problems. Someone was asking about checking your homework and some of the answers being wrong in the back. They are not. So you will do 19 and 21, those story problems, okay? And then the evens. So what I want you to do for the remaining